Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast. This is episode 172. And if you are listening on the day of release, which I know many of you do, it is the 15th of December. So we are moving towards Christmas. I am wearing my Elf t-shirt. I went and watched Elf at the cinema the other day, and I'm wearing that. The other three are festively dressed in black today, but we're gonna kind of roll in. We do have a very, very special double guest episode today, and I will introduce you to our guests in a second. I'll just quickly check in with Mr. Peter Lant. How are you doing, Pete? You okay?
I'm doing very well. It's funny because years ago when I started seeing Sean, my girlfriend, about 7 years ago, she was living in Bristol, I was living in Bath, and she booked tickets to go and see Elf at the cinema there, right? Because I used to go and visit her every weekend. So we went to see it, and it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. And it was full of, like, we haven't got any kids. It was full of kids. And the bit where he drinks the bottle of Coke, and then he just does that massive burp, and he goes, "Did you hear that?" And this kid just like, right, he goes, "I heard that." It was brilliant. You just reminded me of that. It was so.
I think it was like the 20th or 25th anniversary of it this year. I think it's really amazing how time flies. But we went and watched it, Steph and myself, at 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, and there was literally us and one other couple in there. I think 2 women in there watching it. But no, it was very, very good. It was excellent. And right, and yeah, we discussed. I think you've completed your 6 million step challenge, haven't you?
Yep. I'm currently on like 6,220,000 or something.
Okay,
so we're cracking on.
Okay, very, very good. So today we are joined. We are spread across 3 time zones today for the podcast. Today we are joined for the record-breaking 9th time by Mr. Dan John, joining us from Utah. How are you doing, Dan? You okay?
Hey, man, it's all about breaking records. It's, you break a record, and you know what the funny thing? Here's what I'm going to hear tomorrow. When's number 10? And I'll be like, I don't know why I'm not on more often. I mean, this is just, and I feel bad for your listeners.
You should say that more often as well.
Yeah, I do. And the other thing is, I saw Elf when it came out, and I had a really good seat. I was right up in the front, and in the opening sequence, I turned and I said, "This is going to be a classic." The opening sequence, I knew it was going to be amazing. I know they make we call them Hallmark films here in the United States, but that is a true show that I think is just going to stand the test of time. I just think it is just. It's my generation's It's a Wonderful Life, which I can talk about too, if you don't mind. But we can. Let's introduce us to the other young man.
And we are joined in a separate time zone 2 hours later for the second visit by Mr. Tim Anderson. How are you doing, Tim?
Good. Thank you for having me. Hey, I've got a question though for Peter. Is that you just did 6 million steps? Is that like throughout your entire lifetime, or did you like have a start date for that?
Yeah. I've only got little legs. It's this year.
Okay, 6 million steps this year. Okay.
I realized at the beginning of this year that the average person as well, like, out of everybody does like 5,000 steps a day. The average, which is like just over 2 miles. So that means half of people are doing less than 2 miles a day. And I've got a working cocker spaniel. We go walking every day. So I just set myself, I thought 500,000 a month sounds a lot, but reasonable. That's 6 million a year. And I did it. I finished it on the 20th of November. So I'm on, like I say, 6.2 million at the minute. It's great.
And was it about 8 miles? Is it 8 miles a day average? Is that what it works out?
8 miles a day every day, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously some more than others and stuff like that.
Yeah, average,
so,
yeah. No.
So yeah, it's nice.
So now you can just put your feet up for the next 3 weeks. You haven't got to do
Yeah, tell that to the dog. No. It doesn't work like that.
Deary me. Well,
Have you had
sorry.
body composition changes from this?
Do you know what? I haven't measured any of that. I just decided to do it because I like walking, and so I don't know. All I know is whenever I go out for a walk, I feel better afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Like every time, every single time. And then watching the boy running around and just enjoying himself as well, and he hasn't got a care in the world. It kind of just brings you back down, you know. Especially if I have mornings where I might do a workout and then do some work, and then we don't go out until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I can feel myself like I've been in all day. I need to get out, and then everything changes. So yeah.
That's great. Congrats.
And
Congrats.
you've also, and he's also now, Dan, do you just want to I know we talk about it quite a lot, Pete, but do you just want to, just because obviously Tim and Dan won't know, but what you've done now within the local community, within your weekly walk in Bath for the community, the free walk that you do, raising money for homeless as well, is just want to blow your own trumpet or just tell
Well,
Dan what you've been doing. No, I know that sounds silly, not blow your own trumpet, but just say what you've done, because I think that's a massive thing as well, you know.
It's funny actually, because I watched one of your latest podcast, I think this morning. I watched a bit of it this morning, Dan, and it was about, someone asked the question about your family being in the military and in the police and fire service and all that, and what you said, you know, you don't have to wear a badge to, you know, not all heroes wear capes. I'm not saying that, but you don't have to wear a badge to do good in your local community. So, and it made me think about that, because it was in July I started, because of this walking and this steps thing. I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to set up a walk. We've got, I don't know if you've ever been to Bath, but it's a World Heritage Site, and it's a city, but it's not that big. In 10 minutes in any direction, you're pretty much in the countryside. You walk up, it's in a bowl. So you walk up a hill. It's not mountains, it's just hills. But you walk up a hill and then you get a beautiful view of the city from all over the place. And so I've decided to just start every Saturday morning at 9 a.m., kind of like what you do with the people who turn up at your house as well. Saturday morning at 9 a.m., I'm going for a walk with a dog. Who wants to come? And it's all free. So everyone who comes along donates money to a national charity to help end homelessness, because we've got a homelessness crisis, a housing crisis over here as well. So it was better, like I just put it all together, and I was like, well, everyone gets mentally stronger, physically stronger, and it does good in the world. So I was like, oh well, let's just do that. And it's been really good. We've had a fair few people through. So that's the idea, is to build it nationwide, but we'll see what happens with that. I don't know.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Excellent. So I just want to say, guys, if you are listening, I know we do have new listeners joining us every week. If you've not, I mean, I haven't actually got the index of all of Dan's 8 previous episodes. But if you go back and listen to any of Dan's episodes, they're all great. And if you go back and listen to the first episode with Tim, that's fantastic. But Tim, I'm holding up the original press reset, original strength here. I've got quite a few of Tim's books. If you're listening on the radio, this isn't the radio. We're not on the radio, are we? If listening on the
on the wireless.
If you're listening on the wireless, you can't see what I'm holding up. And
we get that little chime. The BBC.
I'm holding up Dan's latest, the Omnibook, but Dan's obviously written loads of books that I've got in my bookshelf as well. But both guys are fantastic. And one of the reasons why I've got both gentlemen on with us today together is that they're both actually going on a little bit of a journey together. And they're going to be coming over to England next April to do a weekend workshop together. And if you've ever read any of Dan's stuff, or listen to Dan's podcast, he's often references Tim's work and original strength, in most things that I read of Dan's. And I know that Tim and Dan work together, kind of, I suppose there's a great synergy between what they do. And I really wanted to talk a little bit about that, about the original strength, the pressing reset, the kind of resets, the easy strength, the kind of the training and the synergy and why they fit so well together. And then maybe also a little bit about what people can expect if they do come and see you when you're over in England in April. So I suppose, I mean, really, maybe to begin with, maybe for both of you together would be really nice, one at a time, maybe just to find out how you first became aware of each other. Was it a personal meeting? Was it just an awareness of each other's work?
You want to tell a story, or do you want me to, Tim?
You get started out, because it's a good story. You tell it well.
Now, from the way I remember, now you have to be careful, because this is, I'm at that age where my memory, starts to make decisions about truth, hell, I could be a politician now. I don't remember anything. So I went to this thing called the kettlebell correctives. So
is that what that stood for?
Was it a CKFMS or something? Was it?
CKF,
CKFMS.
corrective kettlebell FMS, CKF.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they sent all these videos you had to watch, and they sent all this stuff. And then we go there, and they show us the videos that they sent us. If I'm exaggerating, the same exact videos that they sent us, they show us, and they're long videos. And once you've heard a joke on a video, you've heard it. And our group was interesting, to say the least, and to the point that what was it, 4 days? Four days. No one ever finished the FMS screen on me. Do you remember that?
They tried, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, it was taking us an hour and a half to do the FMS screens, because our group was greatly dysfunctional, and I did not like the weekend. I bought an earlier flight out in cash just to get out, because the storm was showing up. And I get back, and someone said, well, was it any valuable? And I said, dude, I met this guy. So Tim and I were kind of teammates in the thing. And Tim goes, he just started saying, I want to share this idea with you about this idea I have about, you look at the way a baby moves and you follow him. And he goes, I call it original strength. And I'm like, and I have never been more all in on a concept than that. Now, at the time, I think was I post or pre total hip? It was
Pre. You're pre.
So this is 13 years ago then, right?
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing. 13 years ago, Tim looked the exact same. 28 years ago, Tim looked the exact same. 48 years ago. Tim is 77 years old. He's 11 years older than I am, which is just stunning. And I only had a few things, but we instantly added him to our training. I mean, like that week, I was in a lot of pain because I had bone on bone in my hip, but even with that, it made me feel better. That weird word, feel better. When you do something and you're like, sometimes in the gym we'll make that joke, that's the stuff, when you're doing like we call them 6-point rocks, and you put the leg out in a kickstand, and and I just felt good. And then every chance I got to see Tim or meet with Tim, I went on my way to do it. And of all the things, people ask me all the time, why we should combine original strength and easy strength. And I look at them like, there's no need. You don't have to you don't have to go get a doctoral dissertation or hire a bunch of PhDs in world. Just do a set of presses, do a set of OS, do a set of deadlifts, do a set of OS. And I don't know of a better training system. I really do. So everything I've done in the last, 12, 13 years has had original strength dipped deeply in it. My work with the American military and your own British military there, one of the things we bring in is the basics. And as I recall, that's how it happened, Tim.
Yeah. So what you guys probably don't know is I had not, when I met Dan at the CKFMS, when we were doing the CKFMS, I was already experimenting with OS and trying to flesh out all my ideas. And for whatever reason, Dan gave me his phone number while we were together at the CKFMS. And when I got back, I had accidentally written a book about what the resets were and stuff, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I just had this little nudge I had this guy's number. I was like, call Dan John and just ask him what he thinks you should do. So I called up Dan, and he goes, you know what? Let me put you in touch with Laurie Draper. She's my publicist. So then I call up Laurie, and she was so sweet. And she didn't know me from anybody. But she spent an hour with me on the phone that basically ended with, I think you can just self-publish this yourself. All you need is a PayPal account and put this out on the internet. And let people purchase it from PayPal. And she goes, just make it a PDF. So I did, and I didn't know what to do with it there. Just because I put it on the internet doesn't mean anything, right? So I went to a Dragon Door forum and just put, hey guys, I wrote this little book. At the time it was called Becoming Bulletproof.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I think this will really help you with your kettlebell training, help you feel better. And it was $4. And a couple of people started buying it, but then like a lot of people started buying it, and it just kind of took off. But none of that would have happened if I hadn't have met, like, Dan John's pretty much responsible for OS being a thing, which is kind of crazy, right?
So I've got the Becoming Bulletproof project. Is that's not the original one? That's a later one that you brought out. Is it? So after?
That one's completely different. And that's more or less of insane training for work capacity after you tie yourself together with pressing reset. Yeah.
Oh no, that's great. Because I've read all these, and I just wondered, just when you said Becoming Bulletproof, I wondered if that might have been the first thing you. Yeah, no, but that was kind of just a similar name, but came after Original Strength. Yeah, fantastic. And in terms of actual training, I mean, obviously, when we spoke to you, Tim, I know you do. I follow you obviously on social media.
James,
as well.
are we all frozen?
Oh, no, you're back. You're with us. You're back. You're with us.
Was that me? Shoot,
yeah, but you're with us. That's fine.
You're with us.
Yeah, you're with us. Yeah, that's cool. In terms of your training, Tim, I obviously follow a lot of what you do on social media and things as well. Do you? I see a lot of the stuff you do now with hammers and small hammers, and a lot of shoulder mobility and things like that. Are you in the process? Do you do kind of regular training? I call it regular training. I don't know what regular training is, but you kind of lift and stuff as well, and do more kind of compound lifts and things as well at the moment, or are you more into the the movement, the crawling, the kind of mobility? Because obviously the stuff you put out is the stuff that you put out for the benefit of education for people. So I just wondered within your own training.
So I'm a hot mess when it comes to training. I go through several seasons. And so I'm always doing body weight stuff, crawling, pressing reset, calisthenics, always doing that. I do experiment with compound lifts and stuff. And I was like, last time Dan and I were together, I was telling him that I was experimenting with like very light percentages of body weight load for all kinds of lifts. But no matter what I do, Dan's pretty much, he infects everything I do, because so whatever I'm doing, I'm always asking myself, did I push, did I pull, did I squat, did I hinge, did I carry or crawl? So no matter what type of training I'm doing, I'm really just covering those things, making sure I'm balanced. And everything else, like the hammers and stuff, I'm always just playing and experimenting with stuff.
And I suppose, Dan, with yourself, I know you obviously you do your own training for Easy Strength. I know you still are you continuing to compete in Olympic lifting? I know you have up until very recently. Are you going to be competing more in Olympic lifting going forwards?
Well, I'm waiting on the rule changes, because if they move, there's a couple of rule changes they're discussing, and if they will, I'll go back. I'll go back to 5 or 6 contests a year. If they don't, I'll lift with my team when my team needs points. There's an issue in Olympic lifting right now. It's called the press out, and it's to the point that those of us who've been around a long time can't even. I don't know what the rule is anymore. You'll see at the Worlds a woman go like that, and they'll call it a press out. Well, that was just a lot of gravity hitting the human body, and
it's
not like that. It was so. I find weightlifting meets almost unfathomable sometimes now, because I honestly don't know what a good attempt is. I don't. And so if they change the rules, I'll take it serious. One of the things I should say about Tim, it was funny, a couple of years ago here at the house, I had a RKC in my backyard. So, I have enough kettlebells to pull that off in my home. And Tim stayed with me, and it was interesting because Tim passed the RKC without having touched the kettlebell in a year, right? Wasn't that what you had done? So
Yeah.
he passed the cert without ever touching a kettlebell, because his work capacity is through the roof, and he had good technique. And it was like one of those things where it really helped me. So here's the lesson I get from that, gentle listener, is that if someone goes to an Olympic lifting meet without Olympic lifting and does well, I want to ask them what they did, because in their formula is an answer to a lot of problems. If you can pass the RKC here, I think it was in June, so it was pretty hot here in Utah.
It was warm.
Yeah, it can be brutal here. Pass the RKC in June without using kettlebells, and I mean, he really was. He moved great, did everything fine. Well, I want to look at that and see what you did. So I'm always, I don't listen to coaches that, if you're with your athletes 100 hours a week, and they have pods they sleep in, and every meal comes to them in a test tube, and it's all, I can't mimic that. But if you say you won some kind of championship on 3 45-minute workouts a week, yes, I'm all in listening, because to me, that's the formula for success, So that's I want to make sure we mention that, Tim, because that's when I think that's when I first really started to rethink the power of, so that is what work capacity is. This is what, this isn't every time I get on here, I feel it's a love fest. So Tim smells. No, okay.
Good. He smells good.
So one of the things I began to realize is that why waste my time building work capacity doing the sport? Because if I'm building work capacity doing the sport, which has value, we also means that we're going to have a lot of crappy repetitions, a lot of subpar things. And then I realized that I've got this toolkit over here that I can turn between hinges, the whole hinge and squat family. I can turn my athletes into monsters. And that's when I called hinge snap and work capacity, and I slammed the two together right after that. And I came up with a word called snapacity, which is the ability to deliver a blow over and over. And really, it's because of these observations. If I can build work capacity by doing crawling, dragging chains, backwards walking up hills, that's so much better than just, being on that court field pitch, hours and hours and hours, beating up the athletes. We can do things a little bit easier, faster, a little bit more efficiently here, build the engine here, smash that together, and not only do we save time and energy, I think you come out with a better product. So that's
that also means when it comes to like game day, or like it comes to the season and all that sort of stuff, you're not injured as much. I would say as well, yeah, because like you say, you're not beating the athletes up during training and then saying, right, it's time to go play. Yeah. It's building their engine, like you say, during training, and then it's like when it comes to time to play, they're ready to go.
There's a famous story about America's best high school football team. And one of the assistant coaches walked up to the head coach and he said, "Are we still playing a game on Friday?" And the head coach goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, we just ran 85 full contact plays. In a normal game, we run 65. How are we supposed to recover from our training sessions? How now you expect us to come back in and do it again on Friday night?" I mean, a lot of us are starting to pick that up. I used to work for it's a basketball team here called the Utah Jazz. I'll hold out all the jokes and we'll just move on from there. But one time, Coach Sloan just said, this really simple thing. He said, these are grown men. We don't need to wake them up in the morning and have them do a shoot around. These are professional athletes. Let them sleep in on these road trips, and then, they know what to do. And that's when I started to realize that in all these different areas of sports, there were coaches beginning to emerge from the Stone Age and, look at things a little bit different. Yeah.
So I suppose really just being specific, because I know we have a lot of people who listen who, RKC certified, Strong First certified, that kind of thing. So with the RKC, the main thing that's going to require and obviously the whole 3 days requires work capacity to be able to go through and do.
Work capacity,
yeah. In terms of the actual, the kind of the tested elements, I suppose, is the kind of the famous snatch test, the 100 snatches in 5 minutes with a 24 kilo. But I suppose if you're, like you say, if you're trying to build work capacity by practicing the snatch test, then you're potentially going to be training a lot of bad reps when you get to the kind of tired end. Whereas if someone like Tim, I mean, the thing I've been saying to people who are coming to see us in April is that, and I don't know if I say to people, how tall are you, Tim? Just out of interest.
5'10", 5 foot 10 inches.
5'10", yeah. Because I say to you,
I thought you were taller than me.
No,
no.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
But the word I've used to describe Tim to
neck.
lots of people is, the word I've used is he moves so elegantly. So that word of elegant, and the almost like a the ballet dancer who the posture and the poise and the elegance. So I suppose if your technique is really sound, which it obviously is for doing like a kettlebell snatch, and you've got that work capacity that you can just step up and do the 100 snatches in 5 minutes without drilling them into death and getting tired and drilling sloppy reps. I mean, is that how you experienced it, Tim, when you went to do that 5 minute snatch test, having not really practiced it leading up to the event? I mean, you knew the technique, you were strong enough, and you had the work capacity to maintain form and maintain strength for the 5 minutes, where most people, we'd say, would probably in the last minute, things start to fall apart a little bit. Is that a fair representation, do you think?
I mean, for me, I had done so much crawling, and like my thing is I would try to do uncomfortable things while nasal breathing, but things that I like doing and that I enjoy doing that made me feel good. Like snatching a kettlebell 100 reps does not make me feel good. So it was nothing I wanted anything to do with, right? So my regular training at home, it was just a lot of carries, a lot of crawls, and crawls feel amazing, but I built myself up where I could do long time trials or distances while nasal breathing. So I just went into it figuring that would be enough. So, and when I did the snatch test, like I actually tried to do the entire thing nasal breathing. Towards the end, the mouth would pop open, but it was more to exhale air versus like I was always inhaling nasal breathing. And Dan actually no-repped me on about 3 reps, and I was like, I could not believe it, but that's fine. So it was like 103 reps, but I guess if there are no reps, it's still just 100. And it was tiring, like, because snatching a kettlebell 100 times in less than 5 minutes is, I mean, that's a thing, but my body was just ready for it. The good thing about like crawling and walking and rucking and carrying, that in itself, even though it can become very uncomfortable, it's nourishing to your body. It's a reset. It doesn't tear your body down. It builds your body up. So it's a way to train where you can train something that's very, very uncomfortable and hard, but it just doesn't break you down.
And I wonder, from just we talked, who is it we had on, Pete, recently, where we referenced armor building? It was Sean Kens, wasn't it? We had,
yes.
no, we were talking about armor building, Dan, and because he's South African rugby, and was talking about that element of build and brought your work into the conversation, and he mentioned the hands as something that most people need, when working with kettlebells, people suffer with to begin with, repetitions and stuff. But Tim, I suppose if you're crawling all the time and on varied surfaces and things like that, your hands are fairly robust and fairly used to friction, I suppose you could say, from crawling and things, or you didn't have problems with hands having not really done lots of volume.
So I mean, there's some of that, but the thing, and I know like Dan probably can talk more to this than I can, but kettlebell training is a perishable skill, right? But if you've, like when I first started training kettlebells, I tore my hands up. Well, that taught me a lesson, taught me how to hold a kettlebell. I didn't forget it. Like when you've done something so many times, like it's like, you don't forget how to ride a bicycle, right? So I had done, and throughout the 10, 15 years, I had done so much kettlebell training. I knew how to hold a bell. I will never tear my hands up again with a kettlebell ever. Because I did not enjoy it when I did, and I learned from it. So I don't think that crawling like made the top of my hands resilient. That was just knowing how to hold a bell.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic answer. Yeah, no, that's great. So it's not sorry, go on, Dan.
Yeah, a couple things he said there. Watching him do the snatch test without the proper preparation, but you know what I mean. First off, his nasal breathing thing reminded me of what I teach my athletes. If you come with me up to university today, I got practice at noon. One of the things I will say to the young, especially our runners, stop looking like you're tired. They'll finish 200 meters and you think they just did the Hawaiian triathlon on the most humid day in the history of the planet. Well, it's just 200 meters. Stay tall, walk around, breathe through your nose, act like you've been there before. And that's the phrase. There's two things that came out of what Tim just said. Both are been theirs. One of the things, if I defeat you in a competition, which is probably likely going to happen, so just get used to it. I'm just going to act like I've been there before. I'm not going to beat on my chest and point to the crowd and machine gun you with my pinkies and all that bullshit. I've been there. The thing that Tim did really well, and it's a good thing for people to think about when they're having these challenges, including a 6 mile walk, a 6 million step thing. You got to act like you've been there. You can't, at the end of every single time you did your walks, you can't be going, oh man, today I walked 2 miles, bro, finger, chest pump. No, you act like you've been there, which also brings you back to the hand thing. See, I don't believe. So when I first got involved with the RKC and kettlebells, it was a badge of honor to have shredded hands. And then one day I realized so I'm shaking hands with this person I want to hire me, and I'm bleeding out. My hands are bleeding. I got chalk all over them. There's nothing but, war wounds here. I look like I crawled over glass to shake their hand. They're not going to get a lot of clients doing that. When you do a 2 or 3 day kettlebell cert, your hands at the end should be normal because you worked with the bell, not against the bell. Now, listen, when I Olympic lift, I get the callus here from using the hook grip. And when I do a lot of kettlebells, I do get that ridge. When I throw the discus, I get the ridge right here. It's a ridge. It's not a rip. And I think that's kind of the answer. Been there. That might be, those are two words I think you really want to start to emphasize with young athletes. There is a documentary I think it's on Netflix right now. It might be on Prime, about an American running back named Barry Sanders, who famously always, when he scored a touchdown, handed the ball gently to the official. He never celebrated anything. And the idea, I always try to teach my athletes, act like you've been there. Act like you've been there. Because all you can do really in sports anyway, just piss off your opponent, which is never a good idea.
That's great, because you talked about like within sport, but a lot of listeners will be, recreational type training and stuff like that. And it's like, I've thought about this a lot. What you've just said there has made perfect sense. to something I've been thinking for a while. Because like when I've been getting, I mean, I've got Paul McElroy as my coach, and so I'm getting PRs all over the place at the minute, which is fantastic. But when I'm doing them, I'm not, like you've just said, I'm not kind of like fantastic, like smashing the walls and all that sort of stuff. I'll just do it, and I'm like, I thought that would happen because it felt like it was like the right sort of time. But what I have noticed, the other thing about what you were saying about people being really tired after running and what have you, and the relaxed thing, I noticed on my pull-ups, when I get tired, I start to like scrunch my face up, which then makes you do that, and then I'm trying to pull. So if I relax my face, all of a sudden everything, like the next pull-up feels good. And I used to say that to my guys all the time, and one of them specifically used to really be like, right, I'm going to do a press, and it wasn't very heavy, but he'd grit his teeth, and his cheeks had come up, and then I'm like, right, okay, so you're going to get a sore neck, and your shoulders are going to move in the wrong way, and all that, because he's putting so much effort into it. It's like you got to put a lot of effort in, but if you relax your face, you realize that the effort comes from somewhere else other than everything that hurts. Because how many people get sore jaw, tight neck, sore shoulders that don't work very well, and they're crunchy and all of that sort of stuff. So just that's just reminded me of that as well. And I noticed that, I noticed it in one of the videos I was sending to Paul in my pull-ups. I was like, I'm making, because I've under my beard, I've got dimples, you see. So I noticed my dimples, and I was like, right, I'm doing that wrong. No dimples. That's what you want to tell people. And then
that reminds me of Dan when he talks about you smile when you throw the discus, isn't it, Dan? You're yeah.
Arousal control. But the thing, one of the things Tim preaches, and it's been very helpful for me, is that you keep your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And what I find about that, so for me, Tim, the way my brain works, I need to do something versus not do something. So for me, if I'm holding my tongue in the roof of my mouth, I'm doing something. And that seems to make me happier. Whereas I'm sure a lot of other people might want to say, you might be able to help some people by saying, don't tense up your face, relax your face. I like the idea of sticking the tongue to the roof of my mouth because it's an active thought for me. But actually, you're right on there, James. In fact, if you look at that video of me winning the Nationals, first off, you can see me smile as I start, but also too, after I throw, and you can hear the crowd. I mean, the crowd in a track field. So, that's 7 people at the Nationals, biggest event of the year, I walk over and I look down and I realize I've won, and I just you don't see a reaction, even though I've just won with a big mark, a big throw, because I take my own advice. I look down at the mark, and I'm very happy about it. Pardon me, I have to deal with one quick thing. Okay, I'm still here.
You want to do a dance or something, James?
I keep I keep a CO2 monitor in my office, and that little bing 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 you just heard was my CO2 number went. So there is a large mammal inside my well-insulated office eating up all the oxygen in here. So I just had to I crack open the window.
And do you think, I know that this is a thing, Tim, maybe you could talk about this, Tim, but the the kind of, what is I don't know the best phrase, but kind of physiologically, the position you put yourself in and the way that you move your body affects the way that you feel, and obviously the way
it does
can affect the movement. Yes, he dancing. I mean, got the Superman, yeah. Because I know when I used to run a few marathons and things, and it was funny running the London Marathon a number of times. There's parts in the London Marathon where, and London pretty well, Dan, obviously. There's parts of the marathon route where you're running and there's no one there because you're running through like a little housing estate or something, and there's no one there. And then there's parts of the marathon where you run and there's 6 people deep when you're running along the embankment or you're coming around to, and it's so funny. You run when there's no one there, and you can get really sluggish and you feel tired and you show that you're tired, and it's not very pleasant. But as soon as you come somewhere where there's like loads of people cheering and there's people waving flags and there's cameras, you suddenly kind of, you think, oh, run like it, make it look easy, make it look easy, look confident, glide along and waving at the crowd, and you feel great. And I just wondered, in terms of the how you, I suppose, well, both of you really, but maybe Tim first of all, that the way you hold yourself really does change the way your physiology affects your psychology, doesn't it?
Yes.
To a huge extent. Maybe we can touch on that.
And well, and everything about a person is a two-way street. So psychology can affect your structure and your physiology, and your structure and physiology can affect how you think, right? So it all matters, right? So and you know this, like if somebody's sad, how do they hold themselves? Well, and if they hold themselves like that, how do they start thinking, or how are their thoughts? But if somebody is, standing very confidently, what are their thought processes like? Where's their nervous system? Because your posture is also information, and how you move is attached to how you feel, but and how you hold yourself is really how you move, though. So how you hold yourself is attached to how you feel. So if you stand confidently, you feel more confidently. And like Dan said, stop looking like you're tired. When you do that, you're reinforcing to your body, you're telling your body to be tired. You're telling it to, and you're teaching it how to be tired also, which is a whole other thing. But if you stay upright and you breathe through your nose, you keep your tongue under your mouth, and you're teaching your body something else. You're teaching your body, I'm not tired, I can keep going. And your mind knows that too, because it's all information. So it's a way to build up the body and the mind through simple things like positioning, tongue position. I mean, it all matters. And one thing Dan said about smiling before he would throw. So smiling is information. It means everything's okay. Everything's safe. I feel good. When typically people, when they smile, they feel good. And when I was at his place doing the RKC, when we were having to do one of his little workouts where it was double squats, do double squats, move down the line, pick up heavier bells, do double squats, move down the line, pick up heavier bells, move down the line. I would get up to the bells and I would smile before I'd pick them up. And then before I would squat, I would hold a smile on my face. And every time, no matter how heavy they were, it was easier each time. Just simply, the only thing that made it different was me smiling versus me not smiling. So it's a neat thing to be able to experiment with stuff like that and let your body teach you. But definitely your positioning and how you hold yourself definitely affects how you think and feel and move.
No, that's great. And obviously, Dan, you concur with that from your experience and from everything that you do.
And then the job of the coach, the trainer, the parent is to reinforce that. So and it's interesting because there is a learning curve. Wouldn't you agree on that, Tim? Is that you have to come back to it. You have to come back to it. You have to come back to it. If you come to one of my practices, you'll see that I joke a lot with my athletes. We'll just do weird things. I'll invent, you're now the world champion in the, stick throw or something. Because what I'm trying to do is reinforce that when you throw the discus shot, javelin, hammer, whatever, when you play American football, it's an opportunity. It should be fun. It should be joyful. And you can't go boom, 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 and then tell the athlete at the end, now we're going to celebrate our season. You should really be celebrating the season while you're in the middle of it too. And that's what I liked about your marathon example. You probably, how many hours did it take you? 4 or 5?
I've done it in 3:40 before.
Oh, 3:40.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the fastest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 3:40. I mean, that's solid time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when you ran that 3:40, I would venture that in some ways it was easier than when you'd run a 5-hour marathon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes elite performance is one of the easiest things you can do. And that's the issue we have. And this ties in discus throwers. When you don't feel anything, that's when you break the records. You want to feel something. So on the next throw, you'll feel it and it'll go, 20 meters less, but it felt like you really hit it. Well, yeah, you did, and it didn't go very far at all. The same way in the snatch test, if we do the Secret Service snatch test, which is the 10-minute one, and you're freaking out at 100 reps, when you get to 100 on the 10-minute one and you're only halfway there, let's see what's going on with your body, your brain, your smile, your breathing. You'll probably sound like there's a great white shark real close to you in the middle of the ocean. Well, no, they're not so bad. Tiger sharks, they're assholes.
Okay. Just as an interesting point, I'll say that the fastest marathon I did, which was that one, was actually in Paris. And in Paris, when you do the marathon, there was stations there where you'd be running, and usually, obviously, in London, they give out like bananas and Lucozade and jelly babies and things like that. And running in Paris, there were stations where they had sausages and red wine at one point. So you'd be running the marathon and they had cheese and sausages and red wine, and people would stop and be drinking like a glass of red wine and then carrying on. So it was I'm sure I'm not making that up. I'm sure it actually happened. I may have been hallucinating at the time, but no, I'm pretty sure it did happen.
You were. That's hilarious. You were running along like, I could really do with a sausage and some red wine. Oh, that happens to be a standard. Just the one. No one else remembers that.
Yeah, here in Utah, they'd give you hot chocolate and then Jello with carrot strings in it. Yeah, that would be. Sorry, you'd have to know Utah to get that joke. Okay, everything's got Jello in it here. Yes.
Oh dear. So when you guys obviously you're over in England on the 13th and the 14th of April next year, what can people expect from what we're going to kind of do and what we're going to cover? I know it's kind of going to be fairly malleable depending upon the group as well, and what we can do and the weather. And one thing I will say, Dan, there's still people talk to me now. I can't remember what year it was, but one year you came over and we all did loaded carries with you out in the car park, and I think you got people doing offset loaded carries with the equivalent of body weight spread over two hands. And still people talk to me about that today because they've done loaded carries in the car park with Dan. So if the weather's good, it would be amazing if we could maybe work out outside and do some stuff like that. Would be great. But
carry, Tim, that's one of your standards, right? The carry world, right?
Yeah, I love it. That's my bread and butter.
Yeah, it's strange, I spend all this time and energy writing all this stuff, and it's honestly the best thing I do is the easiest thing. Just pick stuff up and walk with it. And honestly, that's about as far as you need to go on the loaded carry training. Because Tim, right, the body's going to make you find the position. If you're going to carry sacks of flour up a mountain, 8 hours a day, you'll figure out a good position or you'll break.
Yeah, and it's all reflexive. There's no real coaching needed, no cueing. It's the same thing as pushing a car. If you're going to push a car, your body knows how to stack up so that all the joint angles are in the right spot so you can have the maximum leverage to push the car. Nobody has to tell you how to do it.
Yeah, there's no pushing the car cert yet. I've got one. Everybody, June here in Salt Lake City.
There's got to be some money in that. Like you were saying about tearing your hands with a kettlebell, and the amount of it's like, right, people are getting bruises on the forearm. We can make some money out of that. Let's sell forearm guards. Oh, people are tearing hands. Let's sell loads of K-tape. Let's sell this. Let's sell that. It's like, yeah.
Well, the hardest part about my pushing car cert is, you have to know every varietal of car and where to appropriately put your hands to push. The Mazda 3 and the Mazda 6, we're still arguing about what the more appropriate hand positions are. I don't want to get started. I don't want to go down that road. It's got ugly. Friendships were lost, my friend. Friendships were lost. Go ahead. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is a bunch of nonsense that everyone just kind of lets Grandpa speak. And then Tim shows up and he steals the day. Tim, tell us about what you're going to go through.
So really what he's going to tell you is he talks really, really fast, and then I talk really, really slow. And so they're together, we'll balance it out. But what for me, I'll take people through how to press reset, but so they can experience it, not just like listen about it and to know it, but like to experience it so that they own it. But a lot of times what I like to do is whatever Dan's talking about, see if I can fit it in so that it comes more alive to them. You know, this is how pressing reset works, and this is why you want to do it, because this is just, here's what Dan was just doing or talking about. And now we can see it, like apply it to this as well.
I think it's going to be, yeah, sorry, Dan, go on.
Tim, do you want me to start with that first part with the values and all that stuff? Do you want me to start?
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so what I'll do, James, I'll send you some PDFs and email those PDFs, and then maybe we can have some extra copies. But one of the issues I'm starting to really get better at, see, for me, as soon as we hang up here, I'm going to have people coming over, and it's Thursday's tonic day. So, I mean, I train every day. I can't imagine a day without exercise. I've been drinking protein shakes the whole time we're on this call. This is, you know, I'm at 60 grams. This is just the way I do things. So one of the things I'm trying to do is help people get themselves into this mindset that your exercise, your nutrition, your recovery are just part of who you are. It's part of your, like, I mean, you could go through a whole day without urinating. When I got sick in the Middle East, I was so ill. There was a 3-day period but I don't think most of our listeners could go a couple of days without urinating, because there's a need for it, and you kind of pick up on it after a while. I want you to get in the same kind of mental state with your care of your body. And one of the first things you got to do is you got to kind of you got to link onto some things that are core to your own belief system. And please, whenever I say, and I talked to Tim about this, when I say, what do you value most? People always throw out the softball. Well, it's my faith and my family. Okay, good. All right. But really, what are your values? And then what we do is we launch you into that 5-2 thing. You still want me to do that 5-2 thing again, Tim?
I thought all of that was extremely valuable.
And the first question is 2 decades from now, what are you going to be doing? So I'm 66, on my way to 67. So that's 86 and 87 years of age, and I have grandchildren I want to be around for. With the anniversary of Tiff's death is Monday. And, my mom died when she was in her 50s. And when I look at my daughters, Kelly and Lindsay, their grandma died in their 50s, their mom died in their 50s. How am I going to break that pattern with them? I don't want my daughters dying in their 50s. And by the way, if I'm around 20 years from now, my daughters will be in their 50s. So, the reason I threw out all that heavy stuff right there is that caused an emotional response in me. It really did. I'm right close to crying right now. My heart is truly heavy right now. So what does that tell me to do? It tells me to make sure I get my protein in. I'm going to go into the gym and train in a few minutes, and I'm going to make sure I call up both daughters today and tell them I love them. The 2-decade thing, thinking 20 years down the line, ideally will rip open your emotions a little bit and say, and someone says, why do you work out every day? And you'll just turn to them and say, listen, man, and you'll have a response that actually will bring an emotional response. Like right there, if you ask me why I work out every day, the response I just had was almost like a fight. I work out because I care so much for my kids. I want to be a role model, boom, boom, boom. So that's some of the stuff we got to do. So why do I tell you that? I'm going to work out every day this week because there's this Dan John 20 years from now who's going to be really happy I did. So those are some of the things. We'll also, on my side, we'll also go through movement, some of the movement matrix and all that stuff. I want to talk about the push, pull, hinge, squat quadrant, and even all my brain works in quadrants. So so
that's amazing, because I did a video yesterday. I put a post up. My girlfriend found some pictures on a phone that would obviously taken out of a photo album, or taken off a photo album at my mom's house. And one of the pictures was me at 12 years old. And I was doing some juggling because I used to juggle. So I posted it up, and I've got long hair and an Aerosmith t-shirt on. I think it was like 1988 or something like that. But it sparked a memory because at the time my dad would have been 50. And I remember him not feeling very well. And he died in 2004. So he died when he died 15 years later. But I remember at the time him complaining that he wasn't feeling very well. So he was basically already, you know, he smokes a lot and he died of lung cancer. So it was like, again, like that I did a video on it yesterday, a live video on Facebook, because I was just like, this is a great message. It's like, what happens? Like, you've got to start now, because this is your 15-year warning, because I'll be 50 in 3 years, which is how old he was at that time when he was ready. You know, he was already on the decline. And it like everything you've just said there, it got the same kind of response from me as well. So it's huge. And that's the whole thing when people say, like, you know, why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want this? Why do you want that? And you keep asking why. It's like, if you get into something like that, you don't need it. It's that's the why. It's part of you. Like you say, it becomes part of your character, doesn't it? So that's, yeah, thanks for that.
That was worth the price of admission right there.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
A friend of mine sent me a message this morning. He's going through the same dark night of the soul I went through for a couple of years. And it's interesting because you know, and that's why I like to talk about this kind of stuff so much. Everybody likes, okay, hi, I'm Dan. I invented the goblet squat, the suitcase carrying, a bunch of other crap you do in the gym. I think I clean things up, right? I mean, I know I'm full of myself, but I think I've done a nice job in the strength and conditioning community of organizing some concepts, right? I do. That's great. But what I'm starting to really realize is the most important thing I can do is role model life, overcoming some of life's issues, being brave, you know, fighting through these things. And I really think, you know, I'm 66 and I'm on my way to 67. I've been lifting a long time, and I think now I have a big enough public presence to talk about the addictions, the pain, overcoming this kind of thing, moving forward, still looking ahead. You know, it's so much more. The phrase "make a difference" is so much bigger to me now than it was when we first started saying around this house 20 years ago. Yeah.
I've got another thing as well, because I put something else up about self-help books, and because got Christmas coming up and everything, I'm going to lighten the mood now. We've got Christmas coming up, and you know, people might want to get self-help books for Christmas or something like that. And I put up a thing saying, before you get your next self-help book, I'll summarize it for you now, whichever one it is, because it doesn't matter. I'll summarize it for you now. And it was like, basically, decide who you want to be in the future, get clear on it, and then do the things that person would do every day, and do it for a very long time. Now, if only there was one way you could put that into a sentence. There's a guy who we've had on the podcast before who, I can't remember his name, but it was something like little and often over the long haul, something like that.
That sounds really good.
I can't remember his name though.
I think that's the conversation we've just kind of had, and certainly in the last kind of 10, 15 minutes is why I'm so looking forward to seeing both of you, because so much in the fitness industry, and you know, you can sit and listen to people talking about joint angles and, you know, variations of load and technique, and but I think the thing that both you, Dan, and Tim, it's fitness, health, training, life is so much bigger and is so much more important than the petty kind of niggles and things that people argue about online, and the, you know, my way's better than your way, and this is the right I mean, just getting to spend time with people like yourselves. And I went away last weekend and just had a weekend on my own, reading some books and making some notes and things, and writing goals and thinking about life and everything. And you know, doing this podcast every week and getting to spend time with people like yourselves, it just puts things in. Every Thursday we do this, don't we, Pete? We have done for, is it 3 years now? Pretty, yeah, over 3 years, isn't it?
Just over, yeah.
Yeah, just over 3 years. And I sit here on a Thursday for an hour, and I come away from it, and I always feel like I've got something, you know, or I've changed the way I think about something, or something's reminded me of something, or something's helped me look at something slightly differently, or something's made me grateful for something, you know. So and I just can't wait to spend time with you both in person next year. And I just want to thank you. So Dan, you know, just what you've just been talking about there, and Tim as well, you know, thank you both for being so open, for being so honest, for being so just being yourselves, you know, and being so real, I suppose, is in a world of, you know, Instagram and all the rest of it, which we spoke about before. Just being real and being human is so much more important than you know, being flashy or being cool, you know. So not that you're not cool, Dan. Okay. Okay. I think that's a good place to start to wrap up, actually. Pete, have you got anything you'd like to say? Well, as we close.
Not really.
Oh,
well, no, because we've spoke about. I'm going through that thing now of like what you've just said, the reaction to doing something like this. So I'm kind of like, I usually will finish the episode and then I'll start to think back on what we're talking about and stuff like that. But I'm doing that already now because this has made me do that. So I can't formulate anything at the moment.
That's funny. I'm sitting here and there's a picture of my dad there, who died at 71, you know, sailing, you know, and you just look across and you just think of, it's just, fantastic. So Tim and Dan, you're going to be with us April the 13th and 14th at Unique Results in Chelmsford. There may still be a few tickets available when this podcast go live. We'll put a link with it, with things. And I would, if you are in England, well, we've got people already booked in. They're coming over from Norway. They're coming over from Ireland. They're coming over from all over. But if you want to come and spend a really fantastic weekend with Dan and Tim, and, you know, have some great conversations, not just training, you know, it's going to be
and the thing,
life.
And this is, I know it might drive some of the rest of you crazy, but that's one of the reasons I always think we go out as a group. We always go out as a group after. We have some drinks together. Sometimes we have way too many and play sploosh or whatever that game was called. But sometimes it's just, you know, sometimes at about 7:30 at night, something comes up and it changes careers, changes lives. And
no, we've got a nice meal out on the Saturday night, drinks on the Friday night. You know, it's just going to be a lovely weekend. So if there are tickets available when this goes out and you want to jump on, please do. And it'll be great to see you. Tim, thank you so much again for joining us, and thank you for making this work and it's all coming together. I can't wait to see you in April, and I hope you have a lovely Christmas and a lovely holiday season and everything else.
Oh man, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to get to come over there, and I don't know if this will translate or work, but I don't know.
and Dan, thank you as always, Dan, for your 9th visit. We will get you back on for your 10th, and thank you, and I hope you have a lovely Christmas and New Year and holiday season and everything. And I'll obviously be in touch. Thank you so much, and to all of our listeners. Next week, the 22nd of December, we will be here just with our Christmas special. I think it's just going to be Pete and myself recording the Christmas special together.
It is, I've got a very, very, very special Christmas jumper for it as well.
I've been told Pete's got a very special Christmas jumper for the Christmas special. So we will see you next week for that. And then we've got loads of guests lined up for the coming months and things. And like I say, please do, you know, if you're local and you want to come along, April the 13th and 14th to Unique Results, if there's still tickets available, there may be a couple left, jump on and do that, and we'll see you. Thank you for listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so. If you'd like to join the Facebook group, go on Facebook and search groups for Health Oddity and we'll let you in. And we are currently trying to increase our subscribers on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube a lot, give us a subscribe on there. And we will see you next week for the Christmas special. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Good seeing you, Tim.
And thank you, Peter Lant. I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.